Hey everybody, this is Kid Hero. I hope you're having a wonderful day. We are actually going to be discussing something very important. Um, if any of you have been watching the news, this is something that has been in the news, and it hasn't been overly popular if you're not too familiar with the Power Rangers. But this is something that I wanted to bring up because it's exceptionally important, not only for youth, but also for our young men and young women. Um, Let me go ahead and share my screen here. That way we can go ahead and get started. Okay. So if you've been following the news, Jason David Frank, he was the original Green Ranger on the Power Rangers. Power Rangers TV show was a children's TV show that started back in the early 90s. It was kind of like a cross between 90210 and action packed, kind of the Common Rider Godzilla esque style TV show. I do remember watching the Power Rangers when I was like around the ages of maybe 10 to 14. It was one of those common TV shows that was on. It's really unfortunate, however, that Jason David Frank did self delete actually a few days ago. And the reason why I do want to bring this up is it's actually something that is actually more common, not only with men, but also with our youth, both boys and girls. And I felt like it was something that really needed to discuss. When it comes to depression in general, it or even problems, I would say that your whole life or life in general is all about problems, either dealing with your own personal problems or people as a whole solving problems, whether it's problems at your job, problems in life. And a lot of businesses, a lot of services, all those things are solving some sort of problem for someone, whether it's your customer or in society or in general. And I think it's really important to get our youth or get our young men and young women to understand is there's always going to be problems, regardless if you have money, you don't have money, if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, significant other, wife, or you don't have one, there's always going to be problems. And being able to navigate through these problems, to be able to establish some sort of either helpline, whether it's, creating a circle of people that you can go to and at least talk. I would also probably recommend, regardless if it's therapy, going to see someone just to be able to discuss it. Probably therapy is probably one of the most underutilized services that are actually out there. And I think it's just because people put kind of a negative connotation to actually receiving therapy. Being able to actually speak to anyone about these problems that you may have is something that's definitely necessary as we go through this story. We will be going through two different sources. The sources are TMZ as well as Variety Magazine. Um, Jason David Frank, he was 49 years old, still relatively young. And again, when teaching this to youth, probably the two biggest concepts that are difficult to teach to youth are experience and age, as well as having a or developing a strong network or a strong circle of friends or people that you can depend on. I would say life is all about having enjoyable experiences as well as meeting great people. Regardless of what it is that you enjoy doing in life, it's all going to come down to experiences and people and how you can either navigate these challenges as they come across is going to be one of the biggest things that you'll have to deal with as you get older. I know even with my own personal life, there can be times where you feel as if you're going at it alone. Depending upon, regardless of what background you come from, you can be white, black, Asian, Hispanic. It doesn't matter. Everyone has problems, and how you either deal with these problems, whether you definitely don't want to bottle up these problems at all. You want to be able to not only be able to reflect on your experiences, because if you're not taking the time to reflect on both the positive and negative experiences that you have, that's really the only way that we can learn. And I think that's one of the things that's really a challenge when it comes to being able to empathize with people is, and empathy is probably one of the most important things. Um, Empathy, being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes without judging them or making any sort of comparison. It's very difficult, and I think one of the things that can be a challenge when doing this in our lives, and I'll give a brief example. Say if you have me and I have one of my best friends. So let's say both of us are 20 years old. I'm not a overly tall guy. I'm probably 5'9", which is, roughly average height. And let's say I have one of my friends who's 6'3". We're both 20 years old. I'm 5'8", 5'9". He's 6'3". We're both in good shape, but let's say the guy who's 6'3" is just, incredibly, incredibly strong. And for whatever reason, I'm incredibly weak. If you were to put us both in the same scenario, and let's just say if we're doing a job that is very physically tedious, physical labor style job, and you ask us both, what do you think of this job? And I could say, oh, this job is extremely hard. I'm always tired. And then if you ask my friend who's, the Chad among Chads, he's extremely hulked out. He's able to lift these, crates or lift these boxes, no problem. When we go to actually put ourselves in other people's shoes, and again, this probably comes back to being able to imagine ourselves in whatever story it is. Let's say if we're watching a movie. Movies can be exceptionally great, especially if there's a hero or heroine that we can identify with. We often imagine ourselves as that hero or heroine. Um, but when it comes to listening to others, it can be very challenging because we as humans always want to say, well, if I was in that position, it wouldn't be such a big deal, or if I was in that position, I wouldn't have done that, or it wouldn't have been a challenge. This is one of the most dangerous things when it comes to empathy. And the reason being is it's kind of denouncing or kind of taking away from the trouble that the person that you're listening to, whether they're your friend, a stranger, it could be a relative or anything like that. We need to try to remove ourselves from that situation and be able to really listen to that other person without judging them or imagining if we were in that position, we would have done things differently. And I think with this particular instance, as we go through and read this article regarding Jason David Frank, is we have no clue what he was going through at the time. And given he wasn't exceptionally famous, but there are lots of young men and women, or even, middle-aged men and women who grew up watching Power Rangers, and they know exactly who this guy is. And that's not to say that, even though he wasn't ultra famous, that he didn't achieve a lot. To be able to bring joy to those people by providing something that people can identify with. Someone that loves martial arts, someone that dreams of doing better, whether it's, being a hero in your community, personal growth, making friends. This TV show is really all about all those things. The relationships between, five random teenagers from different races who want to save their community from intergalactic aliens is, obviously slightly far-fetched storyline, but even still, if we look at it at its fundamental basis of what Power Rangers is, you have a group of people that there occasionally is drama and they have to deal with it. And I think if we take a closer look at any of these stories, whether they're TV shows like Walking Dead, whether it's movies like Spider-Man or anything that's Marvel, obviously shout out to those companies. DC does have great stories as well, but one came to Marvel, uh, and you can, and there are times when you're angry that those emotions take over, and then what would it be like to grow, you know 8 foot tall and 5 pounds, huge, and smash a car because you're angry. Being able to identify with those type of stories more realistic, and we can identify with them as we can put ourselves in those shoes. Same thing with Spider-Man. Spider-Man, it's the story of a guy who grew up in the Bronx, grew up in New York. He was a teenager, finished high school, was dealing with bullying, trying to get a girlfriend, his sweetheart, Mary Jane, going to college. And of course, he's losing his job because he wants to do better in his community as Spider Man. Having to balance all those different responsibilities and having young men and women or even kids being able to identify that, okay, I have these things that I want to do, but there are these other things that I have to do, and being pulled by two different sides or being pulled in two different directions, and how that can put pressure on a person to either make bad decisions, or you're still making the right decision, but you're being punished for it. So let's go ahead and take a look at this article real quick. I'm going to make this really quick. Jason David Frank, he was again the original Green Ranger. He switched to the White Ranger after they had switched several seasons. We can see a picture of him right here. He played the character Tommy. And again, I would play this, but I don't want to get a copyright strike. Tell you what, this is what we'll do. Okay, we're not doing that. Try and continue to talk. Well, oh, it doesn't let volumes. Yeah. Um, let's see. Jones, Ranger, anymore Rangers. Still see. I actually had the opportunity to meet Walter Jones. He played the Black Ranger, very nice guy. Loves martial arts, also loves to dance. He does exceptionally well at doing the and everything, believe it or not. He's a competitive dancer as well as doing martial arts. He goes on to say that Jason Frank was inspiration for so many people. His presence will be missed. It's so sad to lose another member of our Ranger family. Jason was one of the biggest pranksters on the show. He had a wild sense of humor. We had our shares of ups and downs, but I stayed consistent about being an ear if he needed one. My prayers go out to his family and all that will miss him. I think that's exceptionally important for Walter to say, excuse me, that he lent an ear. It goes to show that Jason, or Tommy, aka Tommy, was going through some issues. Um, by what he had said, they both had their shares of ups and downs, meaning that Jason wasn't alone, and he tried to lend him an ear when possible. Unfortunately, Jason made the decision to self-delete, which is really sad. Let's continue on here. He was a actor as well as a mixed martial artist. I was aware of both of them. Um, his actor was primarily on the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers TV show, and he competed in a MMA full contact tournament that was located down in Houston. I don't know how often he did win that. I'd be curious to find out. Those were his two passions. The one thing that I think is extremely, extremely sad regarding this, if we skip down, let's see. Please respect the privacy of his family, friends during this horrible time as we come to terms with such a loss of a human being. When it comes to suicide, a lot of people don't consider the wake of the destruction that you leave behind. Um, Jason David Frank, aka the Green Ranger, actually had 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. Let's see if I can actually find that right there. Frank was survived by his 2 sons, Hunter, Jacob, and his 2 daughters, Sky and Jenna. This is really sad. We often don't consider who we're leaving behind when it comes to self-deletion. Um, I would definitely recommend that anyone who needs help, that you look for any help that you may need, find someone to speak to, whether it's a friend or family member. To leave behind 4 children, I don't know if he was married or not, or if by chance it was relationship problems that had, caused him to decide to self-delete. I don't want to speculate regarding that, but we need to find someone that we can confide in. And again, if you can find someone that you can talk to, whether it's a friend, family member, or going to get professional help, it's really important to look for someone to do exactly that. Um, there's oh, hold on one second. We have a comment that says, "Hi, I'm new here. Not to throw off the topic, but they're are doing somewhat of a memorial celebration on his fan page on Facebook in like 22 minutes. I do appreciate you posting that. We'll take a look into that. And if by chance there's something that is, pertinent and worth showing, I'll definitely look into it. I apologize that there's a little bit of lag. It seems like in between the solid connection that I have, it's kind of skipping in between the solid Ethernet connection and going to Wi-Fi for whatever reason. Right now, it's showing that the connection is showing an excellent connection at the moment, but again, it does seem like that connection is kind of interrupting there. And again, we are struggle streaming, but I'm trying my best. That way we can get through this. But I do appreciate Derpy 501st 501 that you share that, especially when looking at the bigger picture with providing people assistance and remembering not only the positive things that Jason did leave behind. To say that, you know, he was, some may say, yeah, he was an actor or martial artist, but he did inspire a lot of kids to do better than um, what what they had, or to be able to dream, to be able to either forget about whatever troubles that they had going on at the time, or what would life be like to have four other friends that came from random backgrounds. And again, the group of five Rangers has always been, or at least for the most part, been ethnically diverse. There were always, people of different backgrounds, especially for the original Power Rangers TV show. You had, the Red Ranger, Yellow Ranger, Black Ranger, Blue. And I'm trying to think back of which ones were my favorite. Uh, I did like the Green Ranger. I did like the Black Ranger, of course. And obviously, depending upon if you watch that show or not, you could ask someone, who their favorite Girl Ranger was on there. Everyone says their opinion. It was just one of those things. It was just like any other TV show, whether it was if it, I don't want to compare it to like a 90210 Melrose Place, or um, Just Raven, or any whatever TV show that you're watching, but to bring together a diverse group of people and to kind of problem solve these things that teenagers go through is one of those things that people can really identify with or get behind. Let's see. He was the goat of Power Rangers, and sadly, he was supposed to come to my state on the 3rd, and I never met him. Just going to miss them a lot. That's one of the hardest things to really imagine, especially. Um, I'm not going to ask Derpy how old you are, but just in general, I think when it comes to someone that you idolize, timing can be one of those things, especially when it comes so abrupt. It can be very hard, especially when Derpy goes to say he was supposed to actually get an opportunity to meet him, and then unfortunately, Jason did self-delete. The amount of, just the shock of dealing with the sudden loss, and it's like, the thought of being like, well, I should have, I should have done something sooner, or I should have, gone there to meet him if there was a sooner opportunity. It's really hard, especially with, whether it's famous people, with friends, or anything like that. Um, just showing appreciation, and I think his fans were one of those solid groups of people that they did appreciate him. And he, while he may not have necessarily received the support that he needed to prevent the self-deletion, I would argue the fans were gracious enough and supportive enough to provide them either with the stories of when they did watch Power Rangers, or the impact that they did made. So I just want to say thank you to Derpy for that, because it's one of those things that we don't think of what is left behind when someone does unfortunately self-delete. But it's one of those things that if you actually made an effort, or if you did show appreciation, which is one of the things that I'd like to push, appreciation and sincerity cost a person nothing. Um, I think it obviously is important to be sincere about whatever it is that you say to anyone. And we as human beings can sense, or have a sense for sincerity, but at the same time, there, especially if I were to explain it like this, with YouTube, social media, or anything like that, when it comes to TV, commercials, we have a lot of distractions in life. And I think trying to at least take a moment to sort through these distractions is really important, because especially when you're not looking at, your phone, not looking at your watch at the actual time seems to go by exceptionally quick. And I think we as human beings, even though time is a concept that humans created, when we're not paying attention to it, we lose time very quickly. And I think it's important to at least acknowledge that we at least take a moment to thank people, whether they're people that are close to us in our circle or just, out and about at the store or at the coffee shop, um, showing appreciation if someone holds the door open for us and, actually thanking them, whether it's something small. That way, you never know who you impact in your life. And I think that's really something that goes unsaid. The unspoken heroes, regardless if it's something big or small, you'd be surprised on who you impact just by very extreme small things. Let's see. Well, Mighty Morphin is Kimberly, but for me, as Power Rangers fan, is Jen from Time Force, my favorite female. But I grew up with reruns of Mighty Morphin and N2PR with Lightspeed to the end of the Disney area. Yeah, Kimberly was definitely popular. Jennifer, yeah, she was popular too. Um, there's something, especially when it comes to Kimberly, since I believe she in the show was a cheerleader. So one of the things as being a young man, especially in high school, everyone dreams of dating a cheerleader at one point or another. So it's just one of those things. Honestly, I didn't feel emotionally affected by the loss until Amy Jo and Justin St. John posted showing their emotions that hit hard. Yeah, they did make I believe it was either Instagram. Yeah, it was Instagram post. There was one by Walter Jones. Let me reshare my screen here. Let's see. We want this one. Can't believe it. Rest in peace, Jason David Frank. My heart is sad to have lost another member of our special family. Hashtag Jason David Frank, JDF, Walter Jones, Green Ranger, White Ranger. May the power protect you, Tommy. Um, it's really sorry, lost track of my mouse here. Excuse me. It's really hard. The death affects people differently. Being able to move on, especially when it comes so abrupt and possibly he didn't see the signs. A lot of people say he's seen, when it comes to loss in general, sometimes the signs are hard to see and other times they are extremely obvious. That's not to say that any, specific person could have done something, more, but it's just one of those things that when you look back and reflect, it can be very hard, especially when, sometimes hindsight can be 2020 after the fact, but during the time, um, it's really hard. Let's see, we'll check the stream. Everything looks good. I wanted to say we are going to start having a little bit more conversations. I know I've been neglecting this channel. Um, I actually made a 4-page list of things that I'd like to discuss. I've been actually doing a lot of youth mentoring in my community, which is why I've been so busy and haven't been creating a lot of videos. The Obviously, with this news event regarding Jason David Frank, that was one of the things that I wanted to speak on because dealing with emotions, your personal emotions, self reflection, and dealing with problems, like I said, you're always going to have problems regardless of how old you are. Being able to circumnavigate the problems, how you deal with them, and how you move forward is going to be one of those things that you learn over time. And life is all about experiences and people. Obviously, if you can, make a good set of friends that don't necessarily want anything from you other than your company, It can be exceptionally hard because there's different types of people, and I'm not going to say that all people are bad, but there are some people that only look out for themselves and can be exceptionally selfish. But at the same time, it's important to surround yourself with people because, like Warren Buffett said, you will move in the direction of people that you associate with. So we've been going for roughly about 30 minutes now. I wanted to bring light to this. I will take a look at that memorial celebration for Jason. If by chance it's something that I also want to share on here, since I need to get more information and also find out if, I can actually share it on this platform or if it's something that I'd get in trouble for, I will definitely look into. I appreciate everyone's participation. One new addition before we close up is I did actually get a new software program called StreamYard. It will allow you all to come up here and we can actually have a conversation if you want to talk face to face. If by chance you just have a question, feel free to leave it in the live comment section down here. I will respond to it. And of course, if you're watching this post on the channel, we will start having these actual conversations because depression is something that both men and women deal with, regardless if you're young, regardless if you're old. It's something that we will need to learn how to navigate together. And if you have any questions or would like to see future videos regarding anything, and again, I have a 4-page list of things that I feel that young people, young adults, children, adults really need to learn. Um, we will have those discussions. So I want to say thank you to everyone who watched. Feel free to hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed today's content, as well as the like button. Appreciate you all coming here. Have a wonderful day. This is Kid Hero, and I'll see you next time.